Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about history. On October 21st, 2016, Hillary Clinton said, "Trump threatens democracy by not accepting election results." Cleveland, Hillary Clinton told Ohio voters that Donald Trump is threatening America's democracy by not promising to accept the results of the presidential election. 2 days later, ABC News said, Clinton vaults to a double-digit lead, boosted by broad disapproval of Trump. The week after those articles came out, we held the election, and 85% of the counties in the United States voted for Donald Trump. This massive landslide across the country is what ABC News described as broad disapproval for Trump. The press immediately responded by voicing their disapproval for the decision of the American people.
You're awake, by the way. You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead and you haven't gone to hell. This is your life now. This is our election now. This is us. This is our country. It's real.
Immediately after the election, leftists started their attempt to undermine the election results. Jill Stein started a recount. The recount failed, so Democrats and the press then started an effort to bribe and intimidate Trump electors into not voting for Donald Trump. That failed, so hundreds of thousands of Trump haters showed up at the inauguration in order to rain on Donald Trump's parade. I was there wearing a red hat celebrating the election, and I was verbally assaulted over and over again. And I have little doubt that I would have been physically assaulted if it weren't for the large police and military presence. The recount failed, the attempt to bribe and intimidate electors failed, and the massive protests also failed to stop President Trump from taking the oath of office. So the Democrats' next attempt to undermine the election results was a 2-year-long, baseless investigation of Russia collusion. That Democratic Party scam failed too, so they made up some fake charges against one of President Trump's Supreme Court nominees. That scam failed pretty badly for the Democrats as well. The Democratic Party was falling apart, they had no viable candidate, and the economy was booming, so they started up the impeachment scam. The impeachment scam didn't work out, and things were looking pretty good for Donald Trump. So Nancy Pelosi tore up his State of the Union address. It had just way too much good news in it. This is a graph of U.S. unemployment rates during this century. During February of this year, unemployment rates had reached an historic low. And then the city of Wuhan, China unleashed their virus on the world. One Democratic governor after another started locking their states down, forcing tens of millions of people out of work. Hostile politicians managed to undo the Trump recovery in just a matter of a few weeks. This wasn't the first time that Wuhan unleashed a deadly virus on the world. They did the same thing back in 1996. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that the Chinese virology lab is there and their specialty was bad viruses. And then at the end of May, just as the economy was starting to recover from the lockdowns, leftists organized massive riots, looting, and protests. These mass gatherings were followed by a huge spike in infections, which were used in many places to shut down the economy again. Medical experts like Dr. Fauci spent months telling people to stay home, not go to work, keep their businesses closed, not go to the beach, not visit their relatives, not have picnics. But all of a sudden they went silent when these protests started. In fact, many medical authorities were actually encouraging the protests, which then led to a huge spike in infections. I'm quite certain that all of this subterfuge and all the attempts to undo the 2016 election, which I just described, were simply innocent mistakes on the part of the Democrats. And just this afternoon, the press and Twitter has taken us back to where we were 4 years ago. President Trump refuses to say whether he will accept the election results. The events of the past 4 years shows that Hillary Clinton was correct in what she said on October 21st, 2016. The Democrats' refusal to accept the 2016 election results has torn apart our democracy and torn apart our country. And Rachel Maddow was correct too on election night. Democrats created the nightmare which she predicted. Toto understands that this next election is very important, and that every loyal American needs to get out there and work very hard to protect our country. Visit Toto on the web at RealClimateScience.com. He's been pulling back the curtain on junk science and propaganda for a long time.